Hello, Sierra. We're going to check out and talk about your Follow the Sun posting, as well as your takeaway essay and imagery. So let's kind of do a screen sharing here. We'll get going. I've got your posting called up already over here. Here we are. And it has been interesting as I've been looking at the postings here, how different photographers are ordering these things, whether they start with midday in the top and then go to blue hour and then twilight and then golden hour and so on, because it tells me a little bit about how confident you are. Usually the series that you're most confident in, you throw up there first, you put it in there first, right? So, and I wonder if many students are doing that consciously. This happens to be one of the first ones that I've been looking at, and I've done, let's see, maybe 7 so far. And this is the first one where blue hour was up front, or twilight was up front. And I'm curious about whether there is a correlation between what you put first and which ones you're most confident in. But anyway, let's get into this. You can see that, the sun is down. This is all evidence of the idea that we're in twilight. The light is essentially reflecting off of everything, right? The sun is down. All you're getting is reflected light. You shouldn't see anything coming from any kind of direction. The shadows will be very soft. They're there because there is light. It's just very diffused light. However, the shadows will be very diffused, and so therefore you will have this smooth gradation between the lights and the darks when you're looking at it. And so therefore, what you would typically want to highlight is going to be things that are that emphasize shape and color and texture. And here we are where you're in this sort of, I guess this is a train yard that I'm looking at here. And it's an excellent subject matter for the blue hour time of day. You've got color, you've got shape, and you've got texture. A lot of times, connecting the kind of light that you're going to be using with the subject or the area is the key to making great imagery. And when you're doing it for a living, you don't necessarily choose the place, right? They would say, I need you to make images of our boatyard or whatever. And so you would arrive there and immediately start to look at what kind of things you're going to be making images of, which then can inform you as to what time of day, what quality of light are you going to be looking for. So under one set of circumstances, you might be thinking that, that golden hour would be great. But then you look around and you're thinking, well, actually, if I shoot this during blue hour, where the shadows are really soft, I'm really going to be able to pull out and accentuate some of these wonderful characteristics like the color and the texture and the shape. Now, your compositions are working fairly well. I mean, you're using the entire picture plane here and that type of thing. Composition becomes a little bit more complex only because you can't move things the way you would be in the studio. So for instance, in this case, you can't move the pole, but you can't move that line. You have to position yourself in order to get them into the right place in the composition. I think this is an excellent solution here, very minimal. I'm very much interested in these kinds of images, particularly because they would suit a design field quite well. So for instance, if you would have like text, if there was like a copy here, like a story of some sort, you could have a headline or the title of the story kind of over here. It would lend itself quite well to those kinds of functions. We start to think about that when we're out there as well, is what's going to be the output? What's going to be the function of these photographs? And that's really where you're taking the next step, is you're starting off with, with these compositions and how to use the camera and so on. But then you graduate to what's the function? What are these going to be used for? And then you start to compose based off of that as well. So here we have the midday, and I think that the points where you are emphasizing shadow is where the imagery is going to sort of lend itself to midday. Midday is really, again, about the quality of the light. but it's also the shadows. So the shadows are going to be much shorter, and they're going to be much longer. Oh, I'm sorry. Now we're looking at golden hour. I see you're identifying it as golden hour anyway. It looks a little bit bright in these first two to be golden hour. It looks like you're getting closer here to golden hour, where the light should be at a little bit lower of an angle. Your skies are looking pretty blue and pretty bright for it to be golden hour. That sun would have been down just a little bit more, as in this, and as in this, where we can see the direction of the light is definitely coming from a lower angle here. This would be a very sort of, I guess, typical shot, quintessential shot that you'd be looking for a golden hour. So yeah, we would be looking maybe with the sun to be down just a little bit more, because I can identify where the angle of the light is. I mean, it is relatively low, but I think it could be just a little bit lower. This time of year, midday and golden hour don't have as dramatic a difference as they do in the summer. In the summer, the sun, as it comes through the sky, is going to be at a much higher arc than it would be during the winter, because the winter, the sun is not getting up as high in the sky as it would. This is why the days are shorter in the winter and the days are longer in the summer, because the sun is moving across the horizon, or the earth is turning, and the sun's perspective is higher in the sky. You don't have this much of a dramatic difference between winter midday and summer midday in Florida, where I'm from, because we're lower on the planet, closer to the equator, so you don't get as dramatic a difference. So that, I have noticed that over the last 2 years since I've been here, that the quality of midday changes very dramatically throughout the year, and also the difference between golden hour and midday when it comes to the length of the shadows, not necessarily the quality of the shadows, but the length of the shadows, midday to golden hour in winter, they're much closer. You still have long shadows in midday up here in Colorado. So anyway, let's take a look at your midday solutions here. Well, again, what we're looking at is the quality of light, of course, repeating that, and also the nature of the shadows. That's going to tell us a little bit about where the light's coming from and what time of day it is. This is great. I'm really encouraged by your use of the entire picture plane here, even in something like this, where we're sort of working off of half of the composition there. You're really looking at everything, and you're taking what we were doing in the studio, where we're filling the frame and using everything, all the spaces in the composition, and you're bringing that outdoors. And the complexity is there's a lot of other things to think about when you're outside, like the sun is constantly moving. When you're in the studio, you set the light up, that's not going to move. You can be there for 2 hours and explore that kind of direction of light and all of that. Here, you go out there, and the light's going to change based on what time of day. And when you're out there for maybe an hour, over that hour, the light will have changed completely. And so you start to think about that, and you start to think about all of the other distractions that might be happening. There's a lot more information out there in the studio. You just have a bottle or two and then blankness. Here you have the whole world. So that you were able to take and apply the compositional strategies from the studio, even something like this, where you're really, slicing up the picture frame very well and organizing it. That's excellent. I'm very happy to see that you were able to do that. Not everybody was able to do that. Some, they got the quality of light looking great, but somehow they forgot about incorporating the entire picture plane, or somehow they got thinking about one thing and forgetting about something else. Great mixed lighting solution here. This is all about timing, this last one. Timing, because you want the sky to still have a little bit of light, blue hour, a little bit of light, but the artificial lights that are now being a part of the composition are finding an equal balance between the two. The sun isn't so bright that it's making the artificial light diminished. They kind of come into equal intensity, right? They come kind of balanced like that. And this one really does that well, because the brightness of those twinkle lights and the intensity of the the blue hour works very, very well. Again, here, same thing. You've got just the right time of day. This was a hard one for a lot of people, and yet you seem to have gotten it pretty well. Pretty well. You're getting the idea of finding that balance, and your exposures are quite excellent. I keep thinking of the Polar Express when I see this. I don't know if you know that story, the Polar Express, but this is, you got the color in the sky. It's not so bright that it overwhelms these lights here. You got just enough exposure, bright enough to get the 2912. As a series of images, this is possibly the best that I have seen from the entire class in terms of the mixed lighting. This is excellent works here. Very good. Let's take a look at your wrap up. Let's see, your takeaway. Can't remember if yours was up high or low. I think maybe you put yours, yeah, you did. You put yours before. Okay. So the takeaway is essentially a portfolio of your learning. You're writing about what it is that you gained from the class, how your perspective on photography, how your relationship with your camera, how you're seeing photography now compared to before. You're talking about that and writing about that, but then these photographs are evidence of it. You're showing not just that you know it, but here's the pictures to back it up. So this is great. Your understanding and views of photography and therefore light have grown. What else could we ask for? You approach, each of these assignments I see with, genuine curiosity. You put in the time, you were authentically interested in what was going on, even though you could care less about the bottles, but that was the point, to get rid of subject. The first project that we do is really all about calibrating people. Getting you guys to think about photography in a way that usually people don't think about it. To think about photography as not rendering an object, but working with light and shape and capturing a combination of those things to create a composition where your eye moves around. That's hard to do. How do you do that? How do you break the thought that photography is a picture of a thing, right? So we do that by removing everything, right? You get rid of the idea that you're gonna, take a picture of a bottle, because who cares? It's a flat shape. We have one light that you're working with, right? In the beginning with that directional. And then you add another light, but that light is really meant to be a combination of those things. And we're not even thinking about the bottles. We're thinking about light. And that kind of sets us up for then the next one with the camera, which is what most people expect the class to address, right? Every one of these writings says, I was interested in how to use my camera. And that is not lost on us. We understand that. We would definitely need to have that built into the class. Not all classes address the camera. And the reason is the camera is to photography what a pencil is to writing, right? The pencil, it doesn't form the ideas, and the pencil doesn't make the sentences. The pencil is the vehicle for getting those ideas out onto something. And the camera isn't the thing that makes the photographs. It records the photographs that you are seeing. And so therefore the camera has to be secondary to light. We have to start off with light, then we have to get to the camera. To start off with a camera in photography would be, very similar to trying to get someone to write before they can speak or understand a language, right? So we have to get you to understand the language, and then we get to the tool, which most people, they understand that and they get it. And it seems like you understood that as well. I'm glad that this was a positive experience for you. Clearly, you got some excellent feedback from your from your peers here. I am hoping that you've been inspired by what we've done in the class, and inspired by what you've been able to accomplish to perhaps take even more steps forward with photography, or even video if it occurs to you that might be fun to learn about. There's all kinds of wonderful things. We've just kind of cracked the door open here. It's a matter of what you feel like you want to do with it. is the next step. So thank you so much for joining us this fall for the class. I would be happy to see you in any of my my other photo or video classes. By all means, if you have questions, you can always email me whether you have a class with me or not. That's what we're all here for, is to help you. So you have an excellent break. Get some much needed rest and distance from all of the intensive learning. And we will see you in 21. Bye-bye now.